What is going on, everybody? It's your boy NeoStarling, and I am back here with another podcast. So, first and foremost, as you all well know, just from the title of this video, you all know what I'm going to be talking about. The best revenge is a life well lived. Yes, now why do I say that? Why do I come up here and have the gall, the audacity even, to let all of you know that the best revenge is a life well lived? Because there's plenty of people that could say otherwise, right? And as a matter of fact, there probably are. I'll have detractors, I'll have people that are gonna say, no, I don't really think so. That's not my lived experience. Now, granted, I don't like to really take away from people's lived experiences because they do matter. They do play a factor. My own lived experience, the reason I do these podcasts, these videos, are because I am speaking from my own life experiences. One thing I've realized in life is that you're going to have a lot of people that don't believe in you. You will have naysayers. You will have people that for some reason make it their mission to make your life as miserable as possible. Even if you did nothing to them, seemingly somehow they will still come after you. Or at the very least, if they don't come after you, they will be your detractors. They will be the trolls in your chat. They will be the people that tell you that you can't succeed in spite of how hard you try. There are biological determining factors that prevent you from doing the simplest of things. But there is truth to that to an extent, but not all the time. And the reason that I say that is because you really have to stop and think about it, right? When you're going through a negative experience in life, it is up to you ultimately how you come out of that negative experience. If you're going to school, for example, and your mom sent you to school as a kid with the same clothing on every day because she was too poor to get you anything, and now as a result, you were bullied and people told you that you're just going to be a poor sack of crap for the rest of your life. You know, you're going to be a shit stain in the fabric of society. That's really unfortunate. That's not something you want to hear. As a matter of fact, it might even be something you might want to overcome, because this is not necessarily your lot in life. You can overcome, you can persevere, but again, you have to have an outcome in your own life. You have to be willing to say, okay, let me actually sit down, write down what's going on in my life. Let's write a pros and cons list, right? Because sometimes when you write things in paper, you're manifesting them. You're putting a semblance of your own power within that pen that writes down on that piece of paper that helps to create reality. Because before that, the canvas, the paper is blank. There is nothing written on it. So as a result, nothing can change because nothing has been set forth. So once you start writing things down and you say, you know what, I'm kind of tired of being a piece of shit. I'm sort of tired of people constantly getting on me and telling me that I can't do something when I know damn well I can. Well, I hate to break it to you. I'm going to be a little negative for once. And then I'm going to follow it up with some positivity. Okay? So I'll link it all together. Okay? A lot of you are not going to win. I'm sorry to say that. That's just reality. The reason I'm telling you that is because in order for somebody to win, somebody has to lose, right? Not everybody can be a rich, famous entrepreneur because somebody has to make your bacon, egg, and cheese in the morning. Somebody has to cut your hair. Someone has to mow your lawn. Somebody has to clean your pool. And realistically, if everyone had the capacity to make it, those type of jobs wouldn't be around. Some people just don't have motivation like that. Some people are content with being a 9-to-5 worker and just going home, having a drink after work, having some dinner, and then, resting and doing the same thing all over again. It's always a rat race. Life is a rat race. Now, to a certain extent, you get to determine how much cheddar you make, right? Cheddar being money. So that's the sad reality. A lot of you aren't going to make it. Some of you are going to be cogs in the machine. I am going to be a cog in the machine possibly if this never picks up and goes anywhere, right? Now, even though I gave you a little bit of a black pill, I don't want you to think that it's completely over, because I don't think it is, honestly. I look at it this way, okay? There's a 1% for a reason. The reason the 1% exists is because there's only a certain amount of people that have the will, that have the drive, that will put in the work hours, that will say the craziest things, that will just put themselves out there in order to reach that upper echelon, in order to climb that ladder of success. And a lot of you, most of you, are not going to be able to do it. And not because you don't necessarily have the ability, but because you simply lack the will. You lack the gumption. You lack the guile. You lack the ability to do something difficult when times call for doing something difficult. But you can still succeed. There's many other ways you can succeed. I always tell people, hey, listen, man, I understand. We're not all rich. We're not all super handsome. We're not all 6 feet tall. You know what I mean? There's going to be certain factors that are going to slow you down in life, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop based off of that. We do have immutable characteristics. Some of us are probably deformed beyond recognition. You know, there are probably some of us that have a genetic propensity to smell bad, you know, and as a result, people don't want to exist in our plane of reality because we are unpleasing to be around. There are many things that can happen in your life that will prevent you from attaining that success that you seek, that you so highly covet. But the reality is that when a lot of you get to it, you don't want it. You don't want to put in the man hours. You don't think it's feasible to keep up this facade, you know, to keep up this level of work that is extremely difficult to keep up with. So what do? A lot of you end up sulking. A lot of you end up getting into content that might not necessarily have your best interests at heart. There's a lot of confirmation bias. A lot of people kind of just want to hear their own words mirrored back to them. That makes them feel better. There's a catharsis to that, you know. Let's say you're not going to be rich, right? It doesn't mean that you can't make a good livable wage in order to give yourself a decent life. Let's say, for example, you're into technology. You can always take a certification. You can do a CompTIA A+. That's the entry level beginning for IT, you know, information technology. And then from there, you can do cybersecurity. You can do other things in order to progress yourself and get yourself to a higher plane. You know, if you don't have the smarts to be like a doctor or a lawyer, you know what I mean? You can always study a trade. There's plenty of trades to pay you over 6 figures. There are ways that you can amount and come back from the brink of utter despair that a lot of us go through on a day-to-day basis. And I encourage that. I honestly do. I always tell this to people. It doesn't matter what's happening in your life. You do have some semblance of control over it. You can overcome. You can persevere to an extent, right? Now, you're probably all wondering at the point that I am speaking of right now, what does this have to do with the best revenge is a life well lived, right? And I'm going to get to that again. Being about your own business, not worrying about what every other Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing out there. Make yourself your own mental point of origin. Make yourself the focus. Put yourself in a position where you can gain such a degree of focus that you live a semblance of a good life. You know, you can't worry about what everybody else thinks about you, because if you do, you're never going to actually make any moves. You have to be willing to step outside of your house and walk to the grocery store. That is the first level of difficulty you're going to face. It's something simple. The hardest tasks you will ever do in your life are often the simplest in the beginning, and then you gradually build up. It's a compound effect. The more you stack those tiny little pebbles of truth to reach the height of your dreams, you're going to have a better outcome. Okay? Now, as far as the people that have been bothering you, you probably want to exact some kind of actual revenge, right? And that's why the title of this video, again, has to do with the best revenge is a life well lived, because you can have a good life. The reality is that indifference is also the best revenge. Not worrying about what everybody else is doing. Don't focus on them, focus on you. Focus on bringing your own power back to yourself. And you're probably telling me at this point, you know what, this is just more like self-help bullcrap porn. That's okay, it can be. That's okay, some people need to hear this. Some people could listen to a podcast while they're on their way to the gym or on their way to work, and it helps brighten up their day. You know, you got people like Gary Vaynerchuk that he's always hosting keynotes where he's like motivating the hell out of people, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You could say what you will about him. You could say he's a snake oil salesman, or you could say that he doesn't really mean what he says, but it's always better to have some false hope instead of just complete and utter despair, you know, because that false hope can turn into real hope. Your mind ultimately creates your reality, because there are very much a lot of things that we are not in control of, but we do have some outcome, okay? Every day that you choose to wake up and you get a glass of water from the refrigerator and you take a shower and go outside, that is a choice, a conscious choice that you're making, right? Although a necessary one, because if you don't drink any liquids, then you will dehydrate and inevitably perish and not be in this plane of reality. But outside of that, outside of the depths of despair that you can only hope to to ever get out of, you have to be willing to understand and be realistic about your lot in life, okay? The same thing with going to the gym, right? There's this whole like, oh, you know, get a six-pack, bro, culture. Not everyone's gonna get a six-pack, and that's okay. You can still go to the gym and get a decent physique. You could just even go for mobility, you know, for maintenance. just to keep yourself healthy. You know, you might like to eat food and not want to be a nut where you have to like measure like your portions constantly. You know, you might want to just look good enough towards where you're not bad looking naked, or you're going up the stairs and you're not out of breath. You can still do that and reach sort of a middle ground with yourself, so to speak. You always want to reach some kind of middle ground, because we have to be realistic. When we go full on in one direction and we say that this is how it has to be, and you go to that extreme, that's where you become radicalized. That's where you start not being realistic with your outcomes. Your outcomes have to be realistic, because that's the only way that you make small incremental changes that lead up to bigger successes in life. You know what I mean? Again, I said this earlier in the video, not everybody can sing or dance, but heck, you might be a really good barber and you might give the best barber haircuts in town. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm always looking for a good barber. Even still, you might be the best chef and you might want to like bring your culinary skills to the next level. There's always other things that you can do if you don't have these talents, quote unquote, that people say that you're supposed to have in order to succeed in life. Because again, let's face it, not everyone's going to be a millionaire here, okay? I said this earlier, in order for somebody to succeed, somebody has to lose. And that's a sad reality, but it doesn't mean that you have to be a complete bum at the end of the day. The best revenge you can get is your life being well lived. It's an understanding that you're not going to let the naysayers and the people that constantly try to put you down have control over you. You're just going to live, okay? I remember there was a scene in the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie where Nancy is fighting Freddy. She had just pulled him out of the nightmare, right? And she set up all these like booby traps to stop him. And even though she planned, none of the booby traps were working. He was relentless. He just kept coming at her, okay? It wasn't until she turned her back on him and said that I take every bit of power back that I ever gave you, that when he tried to claw at her, he vanished. He disappeared into oblivion, because she took all his power away and she gave herself her own power back, okay? Because if you let other people dictate the way you run your life, then you'll never be able to live any sort of meaningful existence, and they will win as a result. People that are not even there, people that you're allowing to rent space in your head for free, for absolutely seemingly no reason at all. Okay, so you can overcome, you can persevere. You don't have to be perfect, and you know what? None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. I have a long way to go in order to achieve the small goals that I've set for myself. But you know what? I'm not going to let anybody stop me. And with that said, if you feel that you've gained any value from this video, you know the deal. Please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Do the damn thing and help a brother out. Let's grow this channel. Let's grow this movement. Let's have conversations, honest conversations with each other. And, you know, most importantly, outside of that, just remember that you ultimately share the biggest outcome of your life. Not some random person that doesn't matter. That is the best revenge you can ever give yourself. And with that said, you're all awesome, and don't ever, ever let anyone tell you different. Signing off.